So, welcome to the Half and Half Scarf Football Podcast, a new podcast hosted by two mates who met at the Riverside Stadium, Middlesbrough, regularly watching the Borough, building a random friendship that's since taken in many away days, as well as both Dortmund's Signal Iduna Park Stadium and even Budapest too. Your host and me, Nick Bramley, a long-term season ticket holder, also travels to over 75% of away games every season. I also watch the full EFL highlights show, the German Bundesliga and the Italian Serie A every season. I'm joined by a good mate of mine, Dom Hanrahan, born in Teesside, growing up as a Borough fan and still a Riverside season ticket holder, despite living on the Wirral since his university days. Dom's also been a season ticket holder at Everton for over 25 years, and as such, recently had his pick of seating areas in the new Everton Stadium, which is ready to open for this new season. We've watched and continue to watch a lot of football. We hope you enjoy our views and discussions on what we all think might be wrong with modern football. You decide. Don't forget to like and subscribe to automatically get your Half and Half Scarf football podcast fix every week. So today on the podcast, we're going to be talking about two things that are very current. We're going to be talking about merchandise and we're going to be talking about the Club World Cup. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to my friend Dom Hanrahan. So Dom, welcome to the Half and Half Scarf, our first ever podcast.
Thanks, Nick. It's great to be here. Really looking forward to this and excited to talk about our football views and see who agrees with us, who doesn't. That's half the fun. You don't have to agree. As long as you like football, you'll have an opinion on something. So let's see how it goes.
Excellent. Well, let's start with obviously we called it the Half and Half Scarf Football Podcast. For me, the half and half scarf is literally everything that's wrong with football. But there is a slight irony that you're a Borough and an Everton season ticket holder. So the people listening to this or watching this might be thinking, well, he's a half and half guy already. Would you be seen dead in a half and half scarf, Dom?
Absolutely not. No, I don't like it at all. Keep my allegiances strictly separate, to be honest. So very much a Middlesbrough fan, born and bred, always will be, and they always will take priority. But I'm as passionate a blue as I am a red, and that is very separate for me. They are two separate things. Uh, been an Evertonian with my daughter, so that's a unique family thing for us. Whereas the Middlesbrough supportership comes from my dad and my brothers and my family and my friends back in the northeast. So it gives me a unique perspective on supporting two different teams to see how what the support's like, the things the fans like, dislike, the expectations, the pressures, the disappointments, just the overall fan experience, really, with what it's like to be in the stadium.
I think they're very different as well. To be fair, Borough and Everton rarely play each other because Middlesbrough are never in the same division, to be fair. But
Absolutely.
at some point, let's hope we change that on a regular basis. But you're wearing a bit of a hybrid. You're wearing a very classic Borough away shirt, which is blue and white in the
I
Evertonian
am,
colours.
yes, it's actually a royal blue. It's, you know, it's a, it is very Everton, but it's the classic away kit from the late 70s, early 80s. And it's a kit I really like. I also like the home kit version of this as well. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, let's get on to merchandise, shall we? Because it's that time of year, isn't it? It's the clubs are releasing their new kits. They're doing all sorts of social media stunts. They're bringing them out of boxes covered in smoke. They're doing all sorts of stuff. But it's fair to say, I think, that the feedback you get, wherever club you are, whatever you've chosen, is rarely universal. What neck you've got. Is it V-neck, round neck? Has it got a collar? Has it got buttons? Has it got no collar? Are the colours the right colours? That kind of thing. Um, Quite a few clubs I know do fan forums before they choose the kits for the next year, and they probably do them well in advance, obviously, from merchandising point of view. But even that, you can't please everybody all the time, can you? You've got a classic V-neck shirt on. I've got like a V round neck with a collar on it. And I don't personally like the collar on this one, but it doesn't stop you wearing it and buying it, I guess. But everyone's got a view, haven't they? What's your view on classic kits? What's your favourite? I like a V-neck myself. What about you?
I agree. My favourite is a V-neck. I think it looks really classy on a football shirt. Other than a V-neck, it's got to be a round neck for me. So V-neck and round necks are my absolute favourites in terms of kit. if it's a collar, it's got to be a certain type of collar. I mean, it's got to fit with the actual design of the kit. Otherwise, they're always a little bit of a disappointment for me, I have to say.
Yeah, I suspect Cantona enjoyed the collar in the 90s, didn't he? He wouldn't have fancied a V-neck.
No, I think the collar was perfect for Cantona. He was a perfect football player. So just to be able, I mean, how many footballers would have the swagger to lift that collar up like that? And that goal he scored, forgive me, I forgot who it was against, but that little chip of the goalkeeper when he stood there, chest out, looking all around with his collar up. Not many players can get away with that. I think it was only him who probably could, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a V-neck would have spoiled the moment, wouldn't it, really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the collar gave him the swagger, didn't it? You
It
know.
did. It did. Well, okay. Well, first of all, with kits, let's talk about first team identity. Okay, so Middlesbrough fans every year all ask for sort of a red kit with a white chest band, and that's the identity of the club. But you can readily identify an Arsenal home kit, a Liverpool home kit, Newcastle, Sunderland, Spurs, Everton. There's an identity to them. It's not just the colour; it's the layout of them. And then you still get fans moaning, don't you? Going, well, oh, it's a red kit with a white band. I don't know what you're supposed to be able to do with a red kit and a white band to make it massively different every year. So I don't know about you. I love an identity. I'm okay with the identity. And if it doesn't change much in the first team kit, I'm fine with that. What about you?
I would agree. I do think it gives the Borough identity. It's a distinct one because other than if you don't do that and you don't have the band, you do fall into the bracket of it's just another red kit. But I'm also of the opinion that sometimes you do need a change. So personally, my take on it would be I don't mind the band maybe 3 out of 5 seasons, but the odd season in between, I'd quite like to see either a deviation of the band or maybe just have a season where we don't have it at all. Because I think sometimes that then means you miss it, want to see it back again the following season, or it gives you a new appreciation for it. But I do think in this generation of a new kit every year, you've got to sometimes think outside the box, and people can get a bit bored of same old, same old. But I think you hit on a key point if it's club identity, and the band Middlesbrough is a key identifier for us.
Have you released the Everton new one for 2025, 26 in the new stadium? Does
Yes,
that
that's out.
classically look Evertonian?
It is. It's a really nice kit. So it's a take on the 86-87 title winning kit that was an old Umbro kit. But instead of having the sort of diamonds blended into the fabric, it's got a slight wave pattern in waves, and it's a tip to the River Mersey and the waves that come off into the new stadium. So it's been brought out with an advertising video. So it's supposed to show the players climbing out of the Mersey and they're all wet, and then they come into the stadium and come out on the pitch. It's cleverly done, you know. It's
Yeah.
like now, clubs like to give it a bit of a film. It's cleverly done, but it's actually a nice kit. It's trying to be different, trying to do something different, whilst also trying to go back in terms of retro as well.
But it's not Brian Robson in a suit jacket and a pair of shorts and long socks kicking a ball at the Riverside, is it?
No, it's not. No, no.
Social media's moved on a lot. The only thing I'd say about the kids, I do like the idea that three every 5 years, maybe, the band or they're not the band when it comes to Borough, but also every other club. I was talking to a Norwich fan the other day, and Norwich kits are classically Norwich kits, aren't they? The bright
Yeah,
yellow with green on there. Sometimes it's a bit overdone with the flex, for example. One year they looked like a coach seat, I think, and, fans didn't really take to that, for example. But the year we got promoted 16-17. Borough had a red kit with a white fine pinstripe in it. It just looked like Nottingham Forest. It just didn't feel like Borough. And yet the reality is we got promoted in it. So if you're superstitious, maybe you want to go back to that.
yeah, I do. I think we've had this discussion, me and you, on a personal level, wanting to get Brown because I quite like that kit, and sadly I washed it recently, and the sponsor washed off it, and it actually is one of my favourite kits because I go back to the same point. I do completely agree with you. It's very 1981 Notts Forest, 1982 Notts Forest home kit, but I like it because it's just so different. And I think it had come off the back of us having the band for a while and a white short, and it was just the first time in a while we just had all red again. And it for me, it reminded me of those early 80s kits. So I really liked that as a change.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
brand identity is important as long as we get it right, as long as we can live with it. You might feel a bit more than I do about if you override that, as long as the kit's a nice kit, you'd be okay with that. Because I I was okay with the kit. Mine washed off as well. My sponsor washed off as well, so it wasn't great quality. I think for me, identity is about your first team kit. You get a license to, I guess, to thrill or to challenge with the second kit, don't you? The away kit. And we've had some tremendous away kits over the years at Middlesbrough. We've had some abominations. My favourite's the classic blue and black stripe one. I really like that. And I like the one that we had a couple of seasons ago, which was like a dark green, which I'm not a big fan of green, but it's like a dark bottle green colour. And it's all about personal taste, but none of those were colours that you would normally expect. The blue and black is very classic Borough, but the green definitely is something we've never had before. And sometimes it's like, oh, wow. Okay. Sorry, Dom, you're going to say.
I was going to say I wasn't a big fan of the. Didn't you describe it as a teal kit, my friend?
Yeah, yeah.
And you were. I remember you loved that kit. That was probably one of your favourites in a long time. I
Mm,
wasn't a fan, but I admired the fact that we did something different. We didn't just rely on going back to doing a retro of kit from 15, 16 years ago.
yeah.
We tried to do something different. I did like the simplicity of that kit. Sometimes the simplicity of a kit is really elegant, and I
Mm,
like when clubs are bold enough to not embed something in the fabric or put loads of logos on it. They just go for a really sleek, simple kit. But
mm,
the badging's then important, and I think it had really nice gold logos and
yeah.
sparkle around the badge, and it just, yeah, it was a nice kit, but colour wise for me, no.
It's all subjective. We also won at Man United on penalties in the FA Cup on that one. So with the famous Sol Bamba smack the penalty right down the middle kind of moment. So it's quite iconic. R.I.P. Sol, but it was that kind of beautiful moment, wasn't it? With Sol Bamba smashed it through the middle and standing there with his big broad chest and his shirt showing off. So it's about moments attached to those kits sometimes as well, isn't it?
I agree. I think it's kind of a kit that comes to life with what you've been through with it and matches you've attended. It means more. I've definitely got kits where I feel that attachment for various reasons. But other times, equally, I just like the kit.
Yeah.
So
I
I find
like
myself wearing it season after season just because I love the kit.
I liked Borough's away kit last year, although it was a bit too Coventry City home kit for me, really. But I loved the kit. But we had such a bang average dull season. The kit sort of associated with kind of tepid football for me. So there is an association between what you feel while you're wearing it, what you envisage, I guess. So let's look at other things around merchandise, okay? The first thing for me is let's talk about the cost of kits, right? Because they're just going up and up and up and up every year. The new Borough home kit for 2025-26 is 60 quid for an adult shirt. Now, not so long ago, they were 40, 45, 50. They're now 60. We've gone with Castore for the first time. If you've got kids, two kids, and an adult wants to wear them, you can talk about a couple of £100, particularly if you're going full kit, aren't you? Can they justify the price?
I don't think they can personally. And a prime example of this, I mean, this is again following two teams. You pay attention to what the costs of things are for those two teams. So, for example, this is the first season that Middlesbrough are going to do with Castor, and it's £60 for an adult shirt. Everton are also with Castor. It's our second season with them, and our home kit is £85 for a replica, or you can get the authentic match shirt because clubs are now starting to do that. I think it started in the MLS, if not mistaken, and it's slowly evolved around the rest of football. So you can get a match shirt for 115. So that's the one the players wear, and you just
So,
think, wow,
so
no
that's the
thank
one
you.
with the aerated and it's got a different fabric and all that kind of
Different
thing.
fabric, the badges are different, it's made of different material, the way it's actually meshed and blended into the shirt.
Mm,
Um, and I look at those and think, wow, £115, yet the players throw them into the crowd at the end of every game. You're thinking, wow, that's a lot of money to be thrown into the stand every week.
yeah.
Um, but I don't think you can justify it, mate, to be honest. I think it's a lot of money. You add the shorts, socks. If you want the full full shebang. And let's
Mm.
face it, kids, if they're really into their football, will trying to get an authentic match shirt and shorts.
Yeah,
Like you said, you're looking at 200 quid,
yeah.
and
Well,
that's every season.
you mentioned socks. I've got a thing about. I'm going to mention the socks. You know what I'm going to say with this, right? Okay. You buy your socks. I don't know how much socks are. 20 quid a pair of socks. Are you going to be like your idol? What you're going to do? Go in the kitchen, find a pair of scissors, and cut holes in them. I just do not get the torn sock, cut the holes in the back kind of feel. I mean, some of the players I've seen who've got holes in the back of the socks didn't do it themselves because they're probably not allowed anywhere near anything sharp, to be honest. But the reality is, what the hell's that about, though?
I don't know. And you know what? I should really look that up and see what it is about. Me, I'm wondering, is it an aeration thing? Because different players have different designs on the back. I've seen some players where they cut two or three holes down the back, almost like it's a design feature. And does it? I think some of it's also linked to the boots you get now that are like a sock and a boot. So then they actually cut the entire foot panel off the sock and then just slide the sock over the boot. So it's you still have the team colour sock, but it's
Hmm.
over the boot. But then it's also got holes all over the back of it. So yeah, the socks end up looking a bit of a mess.
The,
But
the,
does it need
the,
those aeration holes in it? Does it? I'm not quite. Someone tell us, please, because I'm at a loss on that one.
Well, if you're a physio and you think it's to do with kind of, I guess, compression or less compression, just get a bigger pair of socks. I mean, the reason Jack Grealish wears little socks is because you can't get any that'll fit over his calves. I would suspect because he's got calves of a monster, hasn't he, Jack Grealish? But
He has.
the cutting holes in them just. Every time I say it, I just think, what the hell are you playing at? Anyway, just a small thing. But that's one of my small pet hates. You've got a massive pet hate, haven't you, about
I
merchandise?
do. I don't. I'm not a fan of the walkout jacket. Now, I'm going to contradict myself slightly here because when we first went with Hummel in 2020, we had an astonishingly beautiful walkout jacket. It was a white with a hood, beautiful blue logos, advertising the badge and Hummel, etc. And it was just an exquisite thing. Should have actually bought one and didn't actually get round to it. But I used to look at it and think, what a tragedy that it's literally used to walk onto the pitch, do the handshake, and then you'd see the guy with his bag, and they'd all run to put them in the bag, and that was that. So again, that comes down to yes, I know that people will buy them, wear them differently to that, but I just don't really. It's a bit of a nonsense, isn't it? You know, do you really need a walkout jacket? You know, go on, mate. You're gonna
Well,
say
I
something.
agree. I agree with you. You know that if it's going to be worn, it's going to be worn for what 15, 20 seconds and thrown into a bag and worn 15, 20 seconds. They don't even wear them getting off the coach. They wear something else getting off the coach. They're wearing a training tracksuit top or a training top. So it's really for me, from a merchandising point of view, another reason to put something in the shop, for another reason to make money out of fans who look at it and aspire to wear them because they like the look of them. And if they're well designed, then that's great. But they're not. Let's not fool ourselves that they've got any other purpose other than to make money for the clubs. And it's just for me, just as a parent, it's a potential financial burden when someone goes, "Oh, I want one of them." I look and you look at the price of them, and they're probably 60, 70, 80 quid as well, aren't they?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it is more. It's all about how much can we thrust upon the fan to get them involved and engaged. But for me, on the subject of walkout jackets, the last few seasons they've been very disappointing anyway. So you're almost flogging something that actually looks quite boring. I'd quite prefer, like Middlesbrough do, they walk out with a tracksuit top. I do like a tracksuit top. I think
Mm.
that's probably more of a thing you'd buy than you'd buy a walkout jacket because you can add your tracksuit top to jogging, training, going to the gym. There's something about a really good tracksuit top that I absolutely love. But equally, on that point you're saying, when you actually look on clubs' websites now, you've actually got your warm up t shirt, you've got your walkout jacket, you've got your kit, your away kit, your third kit, your change of shorts to go with your home kit, your change of socks to go with your home kit. You've got multiple different colours and designs of training tops and shorts. It's like, where does it really end? And then you have it's amusing for me a little bit because you then have the manufacturers saying, "Oh well, we now design everything and use recycled materials and less water, etc." But you feel like saying, "Well, you're going to have to because you're producing so much stuff that nobody really needs, and then it all changes again the following season." And this is why, opening up another subject, I'm a big fan of going back to what it used to be like 30 years ago, and Brentford have been doing it the last few years, which I'm really applauding on, is have your home kit for 2 seasons and start making some of these kits last longer, give them longevity, give them more credence, and perhaps more sentimentality attached to them because you've worn them for longer, and maybe fans would perhaps buy them. More fans would perhaps buy them at the start of when they come out, rather than waiting until they're perhaps a bit cheaper. You get 2 years use out of them.
Yeah, because a lot of people buy the shirts at the end of the season, don't they? When they're going on sale and whatever, but they've not worn them for the games, have they? So, and then the new one comes out 6 weeks later because it's a new summer one. Going back to Brentford, I would just like to say and praise them. They've had some beautiful away kits in the last 8, 7, 8, 9 years. Really crisp, dark. They had a dark blue one with gold lettering. Bloody lovely, absolutely stunning kit. And I used to say when they were on TV, and my son used to say, "Do you want to support Brentford or what?" I said, "No, I just love the kit. I love the kit, you know." And they had again a teal one with gold, a bit like the Borough one I mentioned earlier, and just crisp and simple and nice and easy. So, a couple more things on merch before we get on to the Club World Cup. Getting your own name on the back of a shirt, right? First of all, bit weird. Secondly, if you're over 12, what you playing at?
Yeah, for me that's a cardinal sin. You should never get your own name on the back of a shirt. Definitely for kids, I'm all for that. They can get what they want on the back of the shirt. That's part and parcel of developing the love of the game. But I agree. I think there's a certain cut-off point where it's like no son or no daughter, you're not getting your name on the back of your shirt anymore. Get a favourite player or get a
Yeah.
number, or just do the classic thing of don't get it at all. Or maybe hang fire until a player that you've really loved maybe's come and gone, or is a club legend for a few seasons, and then think I'm going to go and get their name now, but maybe it's not as soon as they've signed. Because sometimes you put a player on the back of your shirt and you deeply regret it and think I've just wasted that shirt tragically. You know,
I've seen you obviously go home and away with Borough and you see some kits and you look at the names on the back, you going, I can't even remember he bloody playing for us. Obviously got the name on when they signed for him in the big hullabaloo and they're injured or they left after 6 months or whatever it might be. A lot of people last year had have had Latte Lath on the back of the shirt, won't they? And he went in the blooming January, didn't he, and things, and was always likely
exactly.
to leave. So that's the gist of it. I mean, if you look at poor Musiala last night, you see his nasty injury. I've only seen it.
Yes.
I don't not watch the Club World Cup, which we're going to come on to in a second, but I've seen the injury to Musiala. If you bought a Bayern shirt with Musiala on for this season, looks like the poor lad's probably not going to kick a ball this season, looking at the severity of his injury.
4 months, they reckon, on that
But,
one. I can't, I think, is it a fibia or a tibia he's badly fractured? So he's going to
oh,
be out for at least 4 months, so he could get half a season, but he's just come back off an injury, so the poor lad's feeling it again.
yeah,
And, again, you touched on it before, all for playing in a tournament that's, what would you rather have as a player, playing that or start the season and
yeah.
play in the Bundesliga? I know what
Well,
I'd rather do.
I've got one more point on merchandise, then we'll go on to the Club World Cup. And it is this that in January this year, just gone, there was an abomination, that's all it can be described as, of a guy at Plymouth versus Liverpool in the FA Cup. Now, obviously, Plymouth beat Liverpool in the FA Cup that day. He had a half and half shirt. What the hell is that about?
Um, yeah, I'm not really often lost for words, mate, as you know, but rendered me a bit speechless. I don't think I recall anyone particularly manufacturing them, so that would have to be something handmade. Um, no, it's worse than a scarf. It's if you feel like saying, well, what are you? Are you a Plymouth fan? Are you a Liverpool fan? Just there's no place for it. It's just, I'm just not a fan at all. I don't think you need a scarf or a shirt of half and half of anything to dignified way as a football fan. Really.
No. The last bit that gets me is you see the guys outside the ground selling these half and half scarves. For a one-off game, they must be really good at measuring the numbers that they think they're going to use, mustn't they? Because once that game's
Absolutely.
gone, no one else is buying that scarf, if anyone's buying them at all.
Well, it all originated from they. It was a Chelsea fan, wasn't it? Back in the early 1990s, and he was on his travels to away games, saw the odd half and half scarf to celebrate the European match that was being held. Now, I understand that because that's a one-off, unique event that will likely not happen again or not very often. If you've gone to the game as well, that's a memory because you've travelled abroad to see your team. So you've got the whole memories of what that trip was, not just the game itself. If the game ends up being a classic game and memorable, fantastic. The scarf means more. But to then generate that as an everyday match going event every season, no, I don't
No,
need a half and half scarf for anything. And are you honestly going to tell me that Everton, Liverpool, Middlesbrough, Sunderland, or Middlesbrough, Newcastle, United City, they want to wear a half and half scarf? No,
no,
absolutely not. No way.
no. Okay, well, let's move on from merch because I think we've kicked that around a bit. Let's have a look at the Club World Cup. We're trying to keep this podcast current, so every time we're doing a release, we'll be talking about things that are going on at the time. And the Club World Cup at the moment, as it stands, has just reached the semi-final stage. Not that I would know because I've not watched a second or a minute of it really, because it's something I'm not particularly interested in. And sometimes you need a break from football, irrespective of your love of the game and watching two teams in the park, etc. Just a break from football as it stands. But this Club World Cup, it's advertised on TalkSport and DAZN, etc., as you know, a meeting of the best clubs in the world. Now, my view is, I think we could get them under the Trade Descriptions Act, and I don't know what your view is on that, Dom. The best clubs in the world?
I would disagree with that. It's simply around, for a lot of the leagues around the world are participating in, they might be the best league, best club in that league. Doesn't make them one of the best in the world at all. And for me, I think it's another competition that um, leans towards the strongest clubs and leagues, which again I think bypasses the fact that there are other really good teams in those leagues that perhaps deserve a chance to play on in one of these tournaments on one of these platforms that actually might be more invigorated and and eager to play, and it would be good for their fans to be part of something like that.
If you look at it, the teams who are in there, it's certainly the European teams, are the usual suspects. You could probably have agreed that with the South American teams as well, with your Palmeiras and your Bocas and your Botafogos, etc. But certainly, your Juves, your Bayerns, your Chelsea, your City, your PSGs, your Real Madrid, your Barcelonas. They're just the usual suspects who are always in the latter stages
Yes,
of the Champions League or the Copa Libertadores, for example, in South America. So yeah, you could argue they're the best clubs in the world in that kind of sphere. But then you throw in Auckland City or Auckland United, whatever they're called, from New Zealand. You throw in some random teams from places like Mexico and the African nations, etc. And whilst they might be the best in that area, they're certainly nowhere near the standard. And you get an invite only for Inter Miami so that Messi can play. It's not, for me, it's just a FIFA money maker, and for me it's a massive tournament too far. I don't know what your view is on it.
I I agree to an extent. I mean, FIFA have come out and said that all the money generated from the tournament will go back into football, and it'll be a lot of the revenue stream. They won't take any of the revenue that will all get invested back into grassroots football. Again, it's how you measure something like that, how you take comfort that that will actually happen. FIFA and UEFA equally both don't have a particularly good track record, and they want to promote the game of football, but sadly for me, sometimes promoting the game of football is just let's play more games. So the Champions League is a big format now. I do like the new format, but again, it's playing more matches every week. It's almost like football now has to be a conveyor belt of lots of football 52 weeks a year. But my other take on it would be I think if you're going to have a Club World Cup, why not have it so that it's not about you have to have won something to be in it. Let's make it a Club World Cup so that if you are going to hold it every 2, 3, 4 years, invite other teams from those leagues, give their fans something to get excited about and that those teams can play in. For example, we were talking off air about wouldn't it be great to see the likes of Bournemouth and Brighton from our league in there, Nottingham Forest, perhaps Newcastle. I mean, I'm an Everton fan. I'd love to see them in there, but do they deserve it above other teams that played really well this season? No. Would Brighton and Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest, Newcastle be good examples of teams you'd like to see from a neutral perspective and further people's knowledge outside of the Premier League, what these teams offer? Absolutely. Could you do that for other teams in other leagues around the world? Absolutely. And then you'd get to see other great teams that aren't your usual suspects. They get to make some money. Their fans get to either enjoy it on TV or make an effort to go out and see the tournament. And you are then promoting the reach and the love of football and football teams. It always seems to be about the best teams get rewarded because they're the ones that win things. For me, that just seems a bit like being in the Copa Libertadores, Champions League. Do you really want to see that again? I personally don't. But the caveat to that is randomly I sat and watched in the early rounds Real Madrid v I think it was Al Hilal. What a game of football that was, by the way. Brilliant game of football. It really showed the quality of the players that Al Hilal have got. And I know a lot of them are there, that's a subject all of itself. Are they there for the money, payday? What are they there for? But a fantastic game of football was held that maybe gives you a bit of, it shows that those teams have got some credibility. But sadly, in the context of that, their league itself, there's question marks there, and that's probably a topic for another day. But it's I think some of those that's a good thing that comes out of it, where it perhaps says, look, this is a good team. It's got good players that can compete with the best. But it shouldn't always be about the best teams in those leagues. It should be about promoting football and football teams.
Well, that's what FIFA say it's about, though, they're promoting football, and yet they're promoting the same usual suspects. If you look at the three out of the four semi-finalists, three out of four European,
Yes.
who knew that would happen? And of course, it was always going to happen because they're the strongest teams, the strongest leagues, and the strongest players. But reality would be, if you did put a Brighton or a Stuttgart or a, Genoa or somebody in there from, the other leagues who were, there or thereabouts, it's almost like a UEFA qualification level kind of team. I think they'd just represent their leagues with equal aplomb, and it would be just nice to see different faces. But I'm going to pick up on a point you mentioned earlier that the money generated from advertising, sponsorship, and all that kind of thing, 250 million dollars or pounds, I'm not sure which it is. And FIFA said he's going to go to grassroots football around the world. Now, two things there. One, you mentioned FIFA haven't got the best record of being trusted. And secondly, £250 million sounds like a lot, but if you spread that around the world, it's not an awful lot per grassroots kind of initiative. So it does strike me as it's an Infantino vanity project, and they're already talking about increasing this to, 48 teams in 4 years' time, and it just feels like it's just more and more football. I'll pick up on a point about kind of football overdone too much, etc. Man City went there to win it and got knocked out the quarter final. So they've come home with less money than they'd like to have done. And they'll be knackered by February because, they are literally. My question is it a post season, end of season tour, or is it a pre season friendly type warm up? And where it sits in the calendar, I think it falls between the two. City have still probably got to have a pre season tour somewhere, and they've still got time to have get the players to have time off. And Chelsea are still in it. And whilst Chelsea have got a much bigger squad, they're going to be right in it potentially until, what is it now? Maybe the 10th, 12th, 13th of July. Premier League starts in 3.5, 4 weeks. Are they going to do a pre-season tour? Are they going to have time off? I just think it gives Arsenal a chance to nail down second place next season really early because Chelsea and Man City might be out of the equation by February.
Yeah, and you've just upset all our Arsenal fans out there, mate, who'll be listening to our wonderful podcast. But, it does give them power next season, strengthens Liverpool's claim even more,
Mm.
particularly when you think who they bought. So they'll be looking at that thinking, well, we're nice and fresh and ready to go. Um, yes, people say you've got big squads. Well, that's a discussion for another podcast because I'm not a big fan of huge 36-man squads. I just don't see what that's all about. And then you've got the likes of Guardiola, who was so brilliant as a manager, even now advocating that he wants to work with a smaller squad. So just saying, well, these tournaments are fine, we've got big squads, we can use those players. It's like, well, do you really need a squad that size in the first place? But you have to then play these players that, yes, it gives them a platform. Does anyone know about them? No. You then go off on your pre-season tour, you probably use the bulk of those players because your star players will be rested until pretty much the start of the season. Your point about is it end of season, is it pre-season? I think this definitely comes into category of end of season because they haven't stopped playing. I don't think this feels fresh and like they've had a break and it's them coming into it and going, oh yeah, we're really excited and energized to play. But again, different countries around the world, they play at different times of the year, so for them, they'll be approaching it very differently. But again, coming into the football fatigue and 24/7 football, look at Man United the season they've had. Terrible season, and they go straight off for an end of season tour. And the players looked completely dishevelled and deflated. And you just think they just don't need this. If anything, these are a squad of players that need to stop, rest, rejuvenate, regroup, not have to go on a pre-planned pre-season tour to generate money for the club.
They played on the Sunday in the Premier League, and they were on a flight on the Monday to Malaysia and somewhere else, weren't they? In
Yeah,
China or Hong Kong or somewhere like that. Like you said, they looked broken, they looked knackered. They had a bad season. They were getting pelters from everybody. They looked like they just need to switch off and go away for 6 weeks and whatever. But the clubs are guilty of that. But then if Man United qualified for the Club World Cup in whichever God knows whichever sort of way that they've gone about the qualification process over the last 4 year period, or by invitation only, or whatever it might be, they'd have jumped at the chance, wouldn't they? You just know they would, and that wouldn't have been great for them because they'd have probably been broken before they kicked the ball and gone out at the group stages, and that just makes it worse, doesn't it? The whole thing's just flawed
yeah,
for me.
I agree. It all depends what kind of form you're in when you're approaching that tournament.
Mm.
And I do think it does then impact how you then approach the coming season. Or
Mm.
in the teams, in terms of the American teams that were in there, they were just fitting that alongside their MLS league commitments. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's a strange one for me. I just think I'm all for these tournaments if it's about promoting other teams within those leagues, giving them a platform because Premier League's one of the best leagues in the world, and equally Serie A, La Liga. There's some great teams in there that would do their teams, you know, a huge service in advertising their league and the quality of those leagues really well. If you're giving platforms to play, it shouldn't always be about you have to have won a domestic cup at some point to be in it. For me,
I agree with
there's a very small window to win something in any league in any season. Normally the stronger teams will. Last season was brilliant that we had in our league. Crystal Palace, fantastic. Newcastle, brilliant. That's what it's all about. That's what we need more of. It shouldn't always be the big hitters to get the rewards and get the money. It just makes them stronger, sadly.
I think there was a Stuttgart won the DFB Polka in Germany for the first time in 15 years. I think Genoa won the equivalent of the FA Cup in Italy, first time in 30 odd or a generation. So it has been a good year for the underdog. And you know what? Is that because some of the so-called bigger teams are so concentrating on top four and Champions League, wherever it might be, top three, top four Champions League qualification, they've stopped taking what we would call traditional tournaments like the FA Cup and the League Cup seriously, which I think is a shame to that. If they're doing that now with a view to keeping an eye on getting qualified for the Club World Cup in 4 years' time to get $100 million, I think that's really bad. If that's promoting football, I don't know. Really, that's just not right at all for me.
It's not because there's ultimately it comes down to money that you earn from it. So Man City will still earn a fair amount of money at the stage of the tournament they went out.
Mm.
Um, don't really think it should always be about money. I think and again, that's the subject for another podcast, but money is just saturating and sadly ruining the game to a point where, it's hard for everyone to keep up with it. So even more reasons to let, some of the lesser known teams have their day in the sun for me. And I think and we're all neutrals. Let's face it, we are. We support our teams, but we also, I love football. You love football. I love watching different football matches, different teams. And I'm a big advocate of and really like watching these teams do well, punching above their weight, good management, good diligence, good signings. And it's sad when you look at the likes of Bournemouth and all their good players get picked off. Hopefully they'll come back fighting again next season and go again. Brighton to some extent, Brentford, they might lose a chunk of their players, but I'm all for these teams getting their day in the sun because they deserve it.
I agree. Yeah. Well, listen, Don, we put the world to rights on two big subjects that are current at the moment. One is merchandise. We had to start without being called the Half and Half Scarf Football Podcast, didn't we? We just had to start with the merchandise. So, and then the Club World Cup because it's still running. Let's just look at what we're going to do for sort of future episodes. We've got the Half and Half Scarf next episode. We're going to be talking about the transfer window and pre-season. We'll expand a bit more on what our thoughts are on that. In the meantime, I'd like to say thanks for coming on the podcast, Dom, being a co-host. We're going to see where this evolves and where it goes and what we do with it over the next few months. If you are watching, listening, or whatever, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share so that we can give you your podcast by automatic download in future. Have a great week until next time, and hope your teams don't let you down in pre-season and stay injury-free, ready to kickstart the new season as it comes up on us in the next few weeks. So brilliant to see you again, Dom. We'll catch up with the audience feedback as we go through, and let's see what makes of that. See you soon, mate.
And Una, it's been a pleasure. Loved it. Loved every minute of it. And just as a quick aside on merchandise, third kits, that's one to discuss in a future podcast.
Excellent. All right, mate.